fixed. But anyway, I'll do a few more works, upload them, and that should give some good detail, and then I'll answer questions, because I think questions are probably a really a valuable way to use the time. So I'm going to go back to, let's see, this example event, this example space. So I added an image. I'll try quickly to add a Vimeo video, because it seems that, you know, as you pointed out, John, that Vimeo and YouTube are working much more efficiently for videos, both large ones and long ones. Maximum video size you can upload directly to us is 1,000 megabytes. So it's meant for sort of shorter videos, but anything long or large is going to be much better handled, especially by Vimeo, in my opinion. So in this case, I've got the Vimeo video, and I will link it. It's going to pull up the thumbnail that is associated on Vimeo, so you can edit that thumbnail on Vimeo, you can edit the title on Vimeo, etc. And since I created the author profile for myself, I can actually go in and pull up my author profile here and just connect it automatically. And I'll create that work. Oh, work title, video, create. Great. So I'll go back to this preview and we'll see if everything happened the way it should. Great, so now we have a video on that wall, and I can toggle up to that image that we had before. So I think I have, you know, one cool use of this is 3D objects. One way to do that is through Google Poly. So an example of that would be this Google Poly of a tree. The way that I'm going to get that code is I'm going to go into embed. This one's like a little trickier. And I'm going to pull out that little URL. Let's see if I got it. Oh, cool. I'll go back into that website link and I'll just paste that URL inside of website, which is more appropriately called embed. We're changing that from website to embed because you can embed a website as a work, but you can also embed a lot of other things. So this 3D object being an example. I'm going to be the author of this work as well. And I'll create that. So in a second here, what's happening is it's going in and it's screenshotting what that website looks like. Since right now we don't have arbitrary thumbnails. And so once it has that image, it will pull up that thumbnail here. So let's go look at how that 3D poly made it into the space. So we'll go over one. Great. So now I have that 3D object embedded through Google Poly on that wall. However, in this case, it's not loading the thumbnail. And so having arbitrary thumbnails, being able to upload those will solve that problem. But clearly an issue right now. Hasn't even showed up here either. It is neat that once you have all these arranged, that you can just pull them and move them into different positions and they'll switch with each other. So it makes arranging things once you've uploaded all these works a lot more straightforward. And you think. Another thing to point out is, so yes, space managers are individuals you can add by email that will have all of the rights and abilities you do to managing that space. And a work manager is someone that when you go into that work in specific is going to be given all the rights and privileges that you have in editing that work. But because you were given the space or because you created the work, you're the default person. So going back into that space, but to be clear, anyone who's given access to a space doesn't de facto have access to all of the works in that space. So that's worth noting. However, there's also this idea of a visitor, and a visitor are people that you can access or that you can add by email. They don't have any ability to edit anything, but they have the ability to view that space before the event is open. So that might be for individuals that you just want to show it off and get their feedback, or for folks that you want to have an early access preview to look at the space before the event is open to the public, to use for VIPs, etc. So that is what that visitors is for, but we need to put some clearer language there to explain that, but that to clear up any ambiguity with that. And I think that covers part of it. I would like to also then, I might be, let's see if I had anything else pulled up. Maybe we can do one more thing. Yeah, so in this case, I'll just embed a full website. Create a new work, website. I'm the author. I choose the website version and I enter the URL. And if all goes well, it'll screenshot that website and put that image here. Looks like it worked. And then when I reload the space, and then I go to that wall that it's on, it is going to embed that entire website. So the website, through this little window, you can interact with it the way that you would if it was just a normal browser tab, which can be useful. However, that will break down in certain scenarios, like when you're trying to embed an unsecure website into our secure website, it'll break. Or if you're trying to embed, which and many websites also prevent this behavior, like Shopify, for instance. A lot of websites just prevent you from ever doing this. So this is a really good use case for a website that you own, or for a piece of web art or net art. But for a lot of, John, you have let me see, I can unmute you. Oh, I'm sorry, John, I think you're muted and I don't have the ability to unmute you. I apologize.
I do have a web-based project that is on an unsecured server.
Yes.
Is there any way for you to sneak me in a back door?
Unfortunately, no. That's handled by the browser, not by us. When they see an unsecured website embedded on a secured website, they will send an error because it is a big security vulnerability. So even if we allow it, which we don't, the browser would throw an error to someone trying to view it. So
Bummer.
It is a bummer. And so that kind of walks through that. But one last thing I'd like to show is a quick example of what preview of what this will look like in its greater context. So I'll go to a demo version of the CADAF event to kind of show you what this will look like in full context. So, and there's still a few edits we're making to this, but the idea is this: CADAF will be running the entire time essentially a TV channel or a conference channel where they're providing, there's artist interviews, et cetera, going on that you can open up and watch in real time, chat with other viewers, et cetera. And there's also this concept of inquiries, which are like one-on-one conversations that a visitor would have with you as the manager of that space. So if someone inquires about your work, it'll open a one-on-one conversation between them and you. And most folks are doing it we expect around looking to acquire your work. So it's a way to have that one-on-one conversation rather than just being, I think on most art sites, it's just a form to create like an email. But in this case, it's very personal and very in the moment to have that one-on-one chat. But there's also this public chat going on. And this will be like a live stream, a live feed of events. So that's helpful to know. But I'll minimize that for a second. And all of these little spaces are representative of the spaces that will be in this full event, kind of floating around. You'll see these dots where other visitors are at that moment. You can navigate around to see these different sections, which is very helpful. You can search for a section. So in this case, we'll go to Mono and we'll see their different sections available. And you can view all of those exhibits as a list. And so your booths will be represented in an environment like this. But that's helpful context because, for instance, on this thing with fireman coats, difficult to see right now because it's scrunched, but the banner image that you uploaded for your space is going here. It's that preview image. So it's going on these exhibit lists. So for instance, this one for .art, that was their banner image. So that's some helpful context. And these little icons, these little avatars are important because when someone exits a space, you know, when they go in and they etch a little pathway as they move around your space, and they come away with a token that shows that pathway they took with the color you selected, that little sort of user-generated, sort of procedurally generated piece of memorabilia can be used as their avatar in things like chat. So in this scenario, I can chat here and it's showing my little avatar next to my name. So that's just a helpful context for how that space fits into the larger context of the fair. But again, we have some visual changes to make to a lot of these things. And to one of the points that was made before around the readability of that text, like that's something we'll make sure is legible. John, you have a question?
In regards to that text, it's at the bottom of each works page. If I click into the text box to try and edit it, it throws up on me.
Yes.
And also, I've added, before you had the YouTube usability, I was adding YouTube videos in the bottom, and now I'd like to get rid of them. Can I delete that, or do I have to just remake the thing?
It turns out that details panel, that editor, we're fixing that and launching an update today or tomorrow. However, in the meantime, Firefox as a browser is handling it really, really well, but a lot of other browsers aren't, and that's our fault. So we're fixing that bug. But
Chrome is just throwing up. It gives me a fatal error, or it throws me out.
Yeah, we're fixing the bug that's making that happen. But in the meantime, if you're anxious to get it done, which I understand, Firefox is handling it really well. So.
Okay,
but that's on us.
If I click on it now, and then how would I delete the YouTube, the repetitive YouTube video?
The same way. In Firefox, it's easy. In Chrome, it's a nightmare for now. But we'll announce on Slack when we fix that. And I think that probably opens us up to questions too. Done showing off those things.
One more thing.
Yeah, of course.
I have a lot of friends, advisors who would love to preview my booth.
Yes.
Is there a way to generate a preview link?
Not a link, but you can add them directly by email in this visitors space.
Okay, and they'll get a link. They'll get an email saying, "Here, click on this, and you can see John's booth."
Exactly.
Yes, and once the fair opens, you will be able to send out a link to visitors if you want them to visit your booth, right, AJ?
Yeah, and when the fair opens, of course, when you go to navigate to your booth, you can copy that link and send it out. In the meantime, this visitors gives people early access.
If I put them in space visitors.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which sounds like a British comedy from the 60s.
It's not helpful language, so we're changing it. It made sense to us, which turns out was not representative of how it makes sense to everyone else. So
I have some questions here that I've been taking from the chat that maybe I can start asking you, AJ. So Jill asked Vimeo, what privacy and secure to not download can we add so that the work is there?
And that's a good question in general, and it addresses like a few things about the web. So on Vimeo, you can set works to be downloadable or not downloadable. And you can control that privacy setting from within Vimeo. However, anything on the web, if someone's sophisticated enough, they can pull it down, even if that's just recording their screen while they're playing your video or screenshotting their screen when you have a piece of art up. And it's not terribly different than when you're displaying art in physical space and people can just take a picture of it. However, we take a lot of like web standard precautions against that. Like we disabled right clicking, so we're not allowing any downloading. We're trying to prevent people from screenshotting. We're serving like dynamically dynamic resolution video and images, so no one's getting like the full resolution image. Like they can't even pull it to their machine. So those are the ways we're attempting to protect against that. Unguessable URLs on our works and stuff. But as a byproduct of displaying work anywhere, online or in physical space, the chance of someone snapping a shot of that image is high, and there's no real way to prevent against that. So, however, for Vimeo specifically, you have your security settings, but by making it publicly displayable, then people in the public will be able to see it, and that's the nature of it.
Hey, AJ, one thing to get it to work on your site, I have all the protections on Vimeo, but I had to take them off for it to show up.
Right. You do have to make it publicly visible, since this art fair is a public event.
I couldn't, because in other places I could put password protection and it didn't allow me to do that.
Yeah, and it won't, because if it's password protected, no one will be able to see it in your booth unless they have that password.
Because other places I could do password protection for my own site, and that allows me to do it to be on my site, but still be still be protected.
Yeah. And in order to embed it here in like a public space, it does have to be publicly visible.
Okay, thank you.
So, Maurice? Oh, I think you need to be unmuted.
I'm going to ask if I can butt in with a question. Is that free?
Yeah, Andrea, do you want to figure out ordering here? I actually can only see a few video screens right now, so.
So what do you need me to, I have the questions here on my computer, so I can just ask you. So Dulce is asking, the work manager might be the issue. Okay, so that's good. Is a 300 dpi image compatible as long as it doesn't go over 40 megabytes?
It is, but the web only displays things at 72 dpi, no matter what. So even if it's 300 dpi image, it will be downscaled to 72 dpi.
And I also have some questions about inquiries. So when you as a booth owner receive an inquiry about a work, do you get an email telling you that you have an inquiry?
Yes, you'll get an email so long as you're not online. If you're online, it'll just ping you in your inquiries, but if you're offline, it will send you an email. Actually, I think right now we have it set so it sends you an email no matter what. If you get an inquiry, you get an email.
I think that's
just as an alert.
Like that, so that you always know. And another question, does the avatar change based on your last visited booth?
Yes, but we're trying to implement a feature where it will actually show that collection and you can just pick one of the many you've been to. But right now it just shows the avatar from the last booth that you visited.
Okay. I think we already covered the security in the links. And for anyone that has a website that doesn't have the HTTPS and just has HTTP, it won't let you embed it because it's not a secure website. But one thing that can work is you can add it as a link. So if you want people to go to your website and it's not a secure website, you can just add a title in the detail panel and say, here is the link to my website, and just add it as a link.
Yes.
I'm going to ask a
100%.
question on that one if my mic is working.
Yes, it's working.
I'm using my artist profile as a landing page. I think you've done a really nice job of that, and it's a great place for visitors to come in. Can I edit any of the text there? Because it was taken automatically from my application. I've got a couple of typos, and I've paid to get my site SSL certified. So I'd like to actually have the HTTPS version listed in the website.
Yes, actually, if you want to, are you in the Slack channel by chance?
Say again. Yes, I am on Slack. We can talk about that later.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to help you with that.
I'll find you there. Thanks, AJ.
Maurice, you should be able to unmute yourself.
It's my fault, sorry. I wanted to ask 2 questions. So one of them is, my project is based on the fact that people buy the things. So they buy the things, so they determine the value of the values. And to do that, they have to buy. So I would like to know how we can do this. And then if some work is bought, can we replace it by another one?
Yes, great questions. So the way to facilitate transactions, since we don't have any transactions happening on platform, is that someone will make an inquiry and then you negotiate that sale however you normally would. And as soon as it's sold, if you're saying, hey, this work is sold, I would like to put a new work up, of course, even during the event, you can edit, detach a work, add a new one, edit its details, list it as sold, what have you. So you have full control over what is presented even during the event.
Okay, so this means we are not fixing a price at the beginning. We are waiting for people asking for a price.
It's up to you. You can list it, or you could wait for an inquiry.
But I didn't see that on the work presentation. There is nothing about the price.
There is no price field, but you can add it to the description.
Ah, okay, in the description. That's something to know.
Or not add it. It's whatever you want.
Yeah. So. I get the point.
Cool.
Just one practical question, because by using to participate in art fair, the collector, when they're coming, they have what we call impulsive buying. They're flashing on a work, they want to pay it immediately to get it and to not let it go. The point, if we cannot catch the credit card at this moment like we do on physical booth, how can we do? Because after 5 minutes, if something else is lost, you know? And this is the way art fair is working. So I can see you cannot manage the payment. Is there any solution, for example, to include an interface from a payment platform?
There are some workaround solutions. So like,
how can we do that? For example, let's take, for example, PayPal. I'm not sure for the amount I'm selling, PayPal is working, but anyway, is that possible to plug something for that in your site?
If you have a way to capture payments online, perhaps PayPal, perhaps an online sales platform that's connected to Stripe, which is another payment processor.
I'm thinking about Stripe.
You could.
My website.
Yeah. And so we're, for the next version of this event, we're going to integrate payments and we're going to use Stripe. However, for this one, we don't have it. And so one workaround for that, if you're looking for that, because I agree with you, right? They're in the moment and you want to be able to sell the work at that moment, is to have an online payments platform and just put a link to it in your description so they can click the link and go buy it. But unfortunately, you're right. It does happen outside of the platform. So outside the fair.
We need to wrap up that we're starting our happy hour right now at 12 for anyone that wants to join. But we need to wrap up here. But I think that any other questions and any other things, you can just ask AJ directly, and we can plan to have another webinar on Mondays to answer any more questions that come up during the weekend. And we'll be available through the feedback button, through email, and through the Slack channel. I think the Slack channel is a great way that we can answer all your questions as fast as we can.
And that's, to end on that, like, it is an absolute pleasure to work with y'all. We appreciate you working with us, even though we're new and raw and the experience can be rough, but I'll be in Slack from now all the way through the end of the event. So if you have a question, please ping me or just put it in Slack, or use the feedback button, if you can still see my screen, when you're inside of a space, for instance, like this one. Well, actually, I don't have the feedback button because I'm who gets the feedback. Never mind. But there's a feedback button you can click that will send info to me and my partner Matt directly. Anyway, so I hope that's helpful. But we'll be around.
Thank you so much, everyone, and we look forward to hearing all your questions and seeing all your booths. So thank you so much.
Can't wait.
Thank you
Good
very
to talk
much.
to y'all.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.